Great lives have great memories. I've had such a great life. I'm happy to say that I have the memories to show for it. And I just want my kids to have a good life too. I've spent an unexplainable amount of time wondering what memories my kids will retain, how Maddie and I's decisions affect their lives 5, 10, 30 years from now. I wanted to compose a video of my life's memories and what they mean to me. I wanted to recap the highlights, perhaps rekindle some memories for you guys, give some overdue thanks, admit some very overdue mea culpas, and hopefully share some laughs and tears along the way. These memories aren't all my best memories. They're not the ones I necessarily think about all the time, though some are. These memories are just random. Memories I felt worth sharing. Memories I feel could probably be series number 1 in a long line of similar projects. My first memory of playing under the bed in the blue room with Rob and Emily. I can envision the picture you have of us underneath that bed somewhere in your photo albums. I think I can trace that photo to the earliest known snapshot of my life in my mind's eye. I have a lot to unpack tonight, but to start off with something so simple yet worthy of my first shared memory, I'm thankful for growing up with a brother and around my cousins. I remember Stagecoach Park. I don't even know if that was the official name, but that's what we called it as kids. I remember playing there with Rob and Emily. Of the hundreds of parks and playgrounds you took us to over the years, that's the one I remember. I felt like it was a special occasion going there, and I'm sure the Stagecoach probably played into my Cowboys and Indians imagination. I'm thankful I get to take my kids to playgrounds, and they can have the same wonder and anticipation I felt 30 years ago. The kids always want to go to Fire Truck Park, and I remind myself of the pure bliss I felt 30 years ago going to Stagecoach Park. And I lean on that when they ask to go, especially the days when I think I'm too tired to take them. I remember driving home one day late on Woodward before Christmas and seeing the nativity out front all lit up in front of Shrine and having my first feeling of Christmas. I remember coming downstairs at Cambridge and Pleasant Ridge and seeing the castle toy arranged perfectly that you guys had set up with Grandpa Fairchild the night before. It wasn't in a box, it wasn't wrapped, it was a fully operational castle, completely constructed and ready to be played with. I remember that as my first Christmas toy ever, and I loved it. I'm thankful for all the work. Only one page and I got a lot of pages. I'm thankful for all the work you two put into the holidays. Always tons of presents to unwrap, always tons of family around, always rich with our own traditions, and always lessons about the true meaning of the holiday. I'm thankful that you guys always let Rob and I sit with Eric and Ryan on Christmas Eve, knowing damn well we'd horse around and catch a claw to the back of the neck once or twice, cop a few jokes at the deaf drummer kid's expense, and still let us be first in line for cookies heading out into the Philomena parking lot. I remember the drives home on Christmas Eve back to Clarkston, laying my head down on Mom's lap to go to sleep every year. To this day, that ride home still holds the award for best sleep of my life, even if it was just an hour. And why wouldn't it be? My favorite night of the year capped off with a nap in a heated car with my mom dreaming about the morning ahead. I'm thankful to have such a good memory of that, and I'm thankful for growing up in a family that had a great Christmas every year. I remember one day living in Pleasant Ridge, age 5 or 6, And my first memory of getting in trouble with Dad, I can't even remember why, but I remember being in the driveway shortly after the discipline and trying to either deflect or change the subject or start some sort of new leaf. And I remember asking Dad about butterflies. And Dad gave me a hug and told me about how he chased monarch butterflies at Grandpa and Grandma's house as a kid. And I remember the warm feeling that came over me knowing that I had a dad that still loved me despite the discipline. And when you're 4 or 5, it was a big deal. I'm thankful to grow up with a perfect balance of love and expectations. I remember my first time skiing at Shanty Creek. I remember being in the lesson with all the kids, eating the lunch in the ski school, and finishing the lessons and seeing my parents at the bottom of the hill proud of me. It's funny, now that I'm a parent, I have zero memory of going fast down the hill, and yet I remember exactly my parents' reactions, or what my parents' reactions were in response to me going fast down the hill. I'm thankful for having not only supportive parents, but also energetic ones. I read a quote the other day that says there's no such thing as lazy kids, only lazy parents. I'm especially thankful for Mom having us on the move and engaging us nonstop. I remember the day we moved. I remember for some reason I was acting a bit coy with all my Cambridge friends. I remember the Vikevishits kids wanting to play with me that day, and I didn't want to play with them for some weird reason. A good reminder that sometimes kids have no rhyme or reason. I remember getting in the minivan and having the block waving goodbye to us, and feeling a sense of wonder and excitement. I remember being ready for the new house. I remember calling it our new house for a while, which I forgot until I started writing this paper. I'm thankful we moved. I don't know if I ever told you guys that. I'm thankful we moved. I'm thankful I grew up in Clarkston. I'm thankful I got to play in the woods. I'm thankful I got to go to Everest. I'm thankful I grew up in a big house with rooms for different occasions, space for sleepovers with friends and families, with a basement we could shoot guns in and later renovate, and have a basement I could impress Kevin Wilson with, albeit for a week. Maddie and I talk about moving all the time and what it means, what it will mean for our kids now, what it will mean for our kids 10 years from now. The amount of sleepless nights I've had thinking about that. Only to realize I never told you guys I'm glad you moved us. And I'm really sorry it's taken me 28 years to say that. You don't realize as a kid what goes into decisions like that. People just talk about the weight of the world, It's such like an idiom that people just say, and you don't even have a concept of that as a kid. Like, we talk about moving, and I feel the weight of my kid's world. I remember coming home from Everest, my first or second day in Miss Bradley's second grade class, and running to Mom's arms in front of the school and just being as happy as I had ever been to that point in my life. I remember biking to school being the coolest thing in the world. I even remember biking to school and seeing like Clarkson High School kids camping on the bike path, skipping school for the day, and thinking, why would you want to skip school? I'm thankful you sent me to Everest. I'm thankful I got to go to school with kids just like me, with families just like mine. I remember Dad coaching our basketball teams. I remember having tons of great laughs. Perhaps not as many as when we coached together, but still tons of laughs and great memories. I remember Eddie Pierce's mom pulling him out of practice one day because she said his bird's head exploded. And Dad and I looked at each other and just kind of like, what the fuck? I remember Rob and I complaining that Dad coached us harder than anyone else on the team. I remember being a bit down on that, and remember Dad just saying, it's just the way it goes. And despite how vague of an explanation, I remember accepting that simple retort, and now with 2 kids, it's so true. And there really is no other explanation. It's just the way it goes. I'm thankful Dad left work to coach my basketball teams and spend time with me. And I'm thankful I was pushed to go hard, and I'm grateful to now have the perspective that it was never about the tough coaching or the wins and losses. It was always about time spent together. 7 years later, and both of us holding a whistle, and it never changed. It was always about time spent together. I remember biking endlessly all around Clarkston for years. I remember being literally addicted to my bike. I remember the day we went to your friend's bike store and you got me my red Marlin mountain bike. I remember it was a big deal. I remember it being a lot of money. I remember you guys pulling me aside and telling me how much of a commitment it was to get it. I remember riding it so much that bike could have costed $20,000, and I think I still would have got my money out of it. Our money out of it. They say when you're about to die, your life flashes before your eyes, and one day I'll pass. And I think that red bike will be one of those millisecond flashes. Maybe that's why I enjoy Mackinac today as much as I did the first time I biked it. I spent a lot of time wondering if these correlations are happenstance or if they're the result of the seeds you planted 30 years ago in full bloom. I'm thankful you guys let me ride around in total freedom on that bike. I'm terrified to picture my kids at age 10 riding around a city on their bike like I did. Maybe it's that I was a boy. Maybe times have just changed. Maybe you're just better parents than I'm gonna be. None of it really matters. I'm just thankful it's a part of my life. And I hope every kid, especially my own, gets a shot to have their own red bike. I remember riding in the dumbwaiter at Spartan Distributors, having to do like 30 seconds of convincing Dad before he was like massively all in. And Rob massively all in on sending me down too. I'm thankful you raised us to prioritize exploring and having fun and occasional risk taking, instead of living life with a mindset of worrying about everything that could possibly going wrong. I remember the father-son sleepover at Everest. I remember the prayer session. I remember playing in the pool with other kids and their dads at Everest. I remember sleeping in the bunks. I remember breakfast the next morning. I have 7 pages of memories typed out I felt might be worth jotting down, and this is my favorite one. I just remember every moment and activity being the best thing I had ever experienced. I'm thankful for all the fun I got to have growing up. What else is there to say? I remember all the Christmases with extended family, the Galloways, Verbeckis, etc. Of course, I've already covered the Christmas Eves, and the Galloways were always first-class evenings. Because I'm digging deep on this project, I remember we were in Grosse Pointe around Christmas one year. I think like leaving the wedges. And Julie called because she couldn't set up her Christmas tree. Struggling, as we like to say. And Dad, Rob, and I went over there to help set it up. We called Uncle Mike and Ryan. They picked up some pizzas. Next thing you know, there's 6 of us or more hammering pizza and pop for like 3 hours, and we turned on the movie The Fly, which is an insane movie. The tree was set up in like 7 minutes, and there we were, just totally invaded Julie's living room with Big Mike doing x-ray vision in her recliner, and it was never about setting up a Christmas tree. We all just wanted to hang out together. And then oddly enough, 20 years later, I think on the dot, we're helping Eric set up for his first Christmas party at his new house. We knocked that out, head over to Ryan's between the setup time and the party time to eat snacks and watch Bad Santa together. Thanks for always, incorporating family friends into our upbringing. Having a support system is healthy, and having a network of friends is healthy, and learning to love folks that aren't just your blood was such a fun thing to experience. I remember thinking it was fun to hide from mom in the center of the department store's circle-shaped clothing racks. Having mom have to have the associates call for us over the loudspeaker. I'm sorry I did that. I guess I'm thankful you didn't kill me for doing that over and over again. If the kids did that to me, I think I'd go nuclear. It's just terrifying to think about, and you were just so chill about it, Mom. I remember the first time I impressed your friends. We were at the Lankos, and the older boys wanted to watch Gladiator, and I came up to ask you two if I could watch it with them. And in the car ride home, you told me the other parents were so glad that I did something like that. I just remember that feeling that I was capable of making other people proud, not just myself, and that my actions represented my family, something I would often forget growing up. I'm thankful that I always knew right from wrong. I'm not saying I always did right from wrong, but I'm glad I knew the difference. I'm glad I had the choice and at least wasn't ignorant to the proper moral compass in any situation of what was right and what was wrong. And the older I get, the more I've learned a lot of people have no actual idea, probably because their parents didn't have an actual idea. I remember one night you guys were in deep discussions about Aunt Janice. I want to say it was surrounding her decision for that late surgery, and remember you guys were in agreement that you were both frustrated with Janice's lack of, I think, open-mindedness to your input or something like that. And I remember just stopping you guys and saying, why don't you just tell her to shut up and you know better and just execute the plan? And I remember this was on the heels of a disagreement I had with you guys either earlier that day or the day before. And I recall Dad just looking at me and going, the Janice thing is similar to talking to kids, giving me, that we just did this with you yesterday look. And I remember that being the first time someone just gave me a straight truth bomb zinger and have to just accept the hell out of it. And I think I heard the phrase, if you know it all, better hurry up and go do it before you grow up and forget everything. I'm sure I'll use that with the kids one day. I'm thankful for always receiving the right wisdom at the right time. I remember playing with knives and whittling wood. I remember, after Columbine, Mom asking me if I ever thought about bringing the knives to school or using them to hurt someone. And I remember saying yes, even though I never had. And I don't know why I said that. To this day, I don't know why I said that. I remember Mom taking the knives, and I never really saw them again, and I didn't really care. And as a parent in 2025, I'm like, how do I handle something like that? What if my kid is falsely lying for literally no reason, and in this case, completely incriminating themselves with no rhyme or reason? Maybe Mom knew the reality. It never came up again. I'm thankful I didn't turn into a lunatic some days, and I feel like my life was a journey of 10,000 micro decisions that you guys just kept me somewhere in the middle of the path. I remember Mom helping me find Columbia when I really felt aimless, and remember how easygoing you both were to the idea of me going out of state to a liberal arts school into a big city to such an expensive college when I showed what I would consider minimal interest in the classroom for the years leading up to that point. I remember you being really chill about this idea and that I wanted to be a writer and out of the gate a TV writer. What a whack job profession. It wasn't gender studies or Renaissance art, but it was out there for sure. But I also remember knowing fairly soon into college that I wouldn't have made it through a regular university. And I remember, had I not gone the liberal arts route, that I was intrigued by the military and ROTC, and that probably would have been my route either before or right after not making it through a regular university. I'm thankful I had the support on the road less traveled. Looking back, I know this sounds nuts, but I was so into the Army back then, and knowing what a colossal waste of shit the war in Iraq ended up being, some 20-year quagmire, I thank God every day I did not go that route. I don't know what path Mom thought I might have been on, but she was determined to steer me in those months, and I'm thankful for that. Even dragging me to the top floor and hunting down the television department, which was very small back in the day at Columbia, and just being incessant on me getting onto that path, and one she knew was right long before I even knew it was right. I'm thankful Mom had such great mother's intuition. I remember before going away to school playing basketball down the driveway, and he brought me randomly into the Red Explorer for almost like a 2-minute timeout and just said Columbia was a big deal and that I've got one shot at it. I'm thankful Dad pulled me aside for a sincere moment. And I'm not sure that I took it to heart like I should have, but we made it out the other side in the end. I'm glad I didn't blow it. But as an adult, I know the purpose of that brief discussion Dad had with me, and I remember how I received it as an adolescent. It was probably not with the same severity Dad was trying to deliver it with. I remember talking to Rob when we were in college, late college probably, and I remember him saying to me, we're really lucky to have parents, the parents that we have. He said, look at all the people we know, friends, family, friends, acquaintances, and a lot of them are kind of train wrecks, whether it's like divorce, addiction, etc. He was like, a lot of them go to Mom and Dad for advice, even as adults. Mom's a professional advice giver. And I remember we just kind of had a mutual understanding of how lucky we were to have you guys, to live the lives we lived up until that point. And for the first time together since we prayed in bed as kids, we counted our blessings. I'm thankful for the two of you, and I love you very much.